Good day and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. In this video we're going to take a look at basically the best way to level from 1 to 85 in Warcraft Classic Cataclysm, and essentially the best routes for the different factions, should you quest, should you dungeon, and other ways to make your questing experience as quick as possible. Now I'm going to give you the hard information right off the bat, basically the stuff you need to really get going. Just in advance, for people wondering how long it's going to take, depending on your friends you play with, if you play solo, the guild mates, etc., how hard you dedicate yourself to it, leveling from 1 to 85 can take anywhere from 80 hours to 200 hours. It's a very broad spectrum depending on you and how you tackle the process. So don't feel rushed or don't feel like you need to take it slow. There are different ways for you to tackle this process, and I would say the length and time that Cataclysm's out, you should do your characters and enjoy doing your characters properly. Now, these are the routes and areas you should go, but I want to also preface that some of the add-ons we'll be choosing will assist you with a lot of this. So don't panic outright about keeping track of this. You can always revert back to this video. But a lot of the add-ons you use will naturally also follow this routine as well. So don't feel the need to follow this process. It is super important to try and stick to the level ranges, because usually this is where your effective EXP level starts to dip. So just keep your eye on that and you should be good to go. It gives you a pretty nice route from the beginning of the game in the new Cataclysm Classic zones all the way through to TBC, Lich King, and then of course finally ending with the actual Cataclysm zones themselves. So it's a good project all around. I think, it depends on your faction, but for most players they should be able to get through this and kind of understand where to go. One thing that I will say, if you finish an area, so you finish Westfall and you want to pick up the next area, remember, you can always pick up the Hero's Call board, and that will give you the starting quest for that zone. So if you're ever in doubt, you want to obviously push back into a new zone because you've hit a level cap, then you can go and grab yourself a whole bunch of rewards. Now, let's talk about the add-ons that you'll need. So there are 4 add-ons you can get. You only need 3 of them because 2 of them do the same thing. But the first is Questy. Questy is just good because it gives you new objective styles on your map, gives you just new ways to indicate quest rewards, where to go for combat, where to go for collection. It also showcases things like waypoints, etc. But it also allows you to keep track of your progress. Especially if you're moving in a party, it helps you to keep track of that. It allows you to obviously push through. It just helps you to really follow through and track your questing process more accurately. Next is TomTom. This one's super simple, but it integrates with a lot of the other add-ons, and just in general, finding rares, finding waypoints, finding different sources on the map, TomTom or Waze or any of the different various kind of GPS add-ons will be able to help you out with that. And then we come to 2 very important ones. So we have on my left-hand side, we have Rested EXP. This is a leveling guide, giving you the exact route to go in terms of completing quests efficiently to gain levels. So for example, it's telling me to go to Duskwood. It tells me exactly where to go, who to speak to, what to do with the quests, what to do next, which ones to take next, so that you can either cut out inefficient quests that are not so good in terms of EXP, and so that you can do more productive and better efficient EXP quests. It's very important that between this and WoW Pro Guides, which is the one in the top center of the map, you can choose whichever one you want. You don't need to do specifically these, like you don't have to have both. You can do either one. It's very important because a lot of your time and your efficiency comes from balancing the amount of time you spend doing combat, the amount of time you spend traveling, and the amount of time that you spend healing your character. By following these guides, you tend to do quests that are the most efficient time-wise. So ones that, cutting out the fluff quests. Oh, a lot of players will run along a side quest and wonder, oh, should I have picked it up? These will basically say, no, you don't need to pick that one up, pick up this one. You don't need to pick that one up, pick up this one. They're just good at helping you to run efficient routes. Now that covers like the questing portion of the route, and we'll talk about dungeons and that. You should be integrating dungeons throughout, especially new dungeons. So once you hit like a new level cap, you get access to new dungeons. Queuing in LFG or random group finder, getting the new dungeon bonus, getting the new dungeon quests is pretty productive. There's the conversation about questing versus dungeoning, but on the assumption that you're playing solo, you will mix both. You don't do them separately. Now, something that's going to help you is joining a guild. 2 reasons why. Bonuses, so mount up bonuses, hasty Hearthstone bonus, chug-a-lug bonus, mobile banking, the quick and the dead, guild mail, happy hour, etc. And also access to heirlooms. Not super forward straight on, like you're not going to be able to access them super duper early on, but if you are in a decent sized guild, then you should be able to access eventually some heirlooms, and these will help you out quite a bit. Now, speaking of heirlooms, heirlooms come from different places. So there are 3 major sources of getting your heirlooms. Firstly, guilds. This will give you your helm and your cloaks. Then you have justice point vendors. So justice point vendors are found in Stormwind. They can be found in Dalaran. They can be found in Orgrimmar and the Argent tournament as well. And justice point vendors, which is your PvP, I believe. No, it's from doing raids and older content. These give you chests, shoulders, weapons, and trinkets. And then you also have Darkmoon prize ticket vendors, and you also have the Champion Seals vendors at the Argent Dawn tournament. Now, heirloom is super important in Cataclysm because heirloom acts as it did previously. So heirloom gives you a ton of bonuses. You get experience bonuses, 10% on your chest, shoulder, and helm pieces. Cloaks offering 5% as well. That gives you a whole 35% boost in terms of experience, which, as you can imagine, is important. Not only that, but they help you to just be strong, because they're constantly upgrading to a pretty high level of item level. They essentially give you really good all-round stats, which just makes running content easier. Whether it's questing or dungeons, you'll run it at a very high speed, and a lot of them do automatic switching. So, for example, if you're a paladin, you don't have to switch from mail to plate. You can just leave your heirloom on. So these are all time-efficient factors that you need to consider. Now, we've discussed the routes and everything, but a lot of players are going to wonder, how do I actually play? Like, what do I actually do? So yes, I've got the routes. Do I just go quest? Well, no. So how it works is you need to balance your questing, you need to balance your dungeons. Now, it's going to depend, firstly, are you in a party, are you solo? In terms of questing, we aim to do yellow quests. Yellow quests are fine. Orange quests are not fine if you're a solo. If you're in a party, orange quests are fine, because as a party, your quest power completion is a lot higher. And let's talk first about teaming up. So if you're teaming up, you get a huge speed increase in terms of quest and dungeon completion. You get shared experience points during the difficult tasks, and you basically have faster queue times for dungeons, especially if you have like a tank or healer in your party. Some issues are obviously getting your friends together. You do lose experience from mobs, and also, of course, you do have to coordinate some of the quests. So some quests do become a little bit more inefficient because you're not just collecting for yourself, you're collecting for the party. But generally speaking, playing with a group is always going to be faster. And especially if you have a group that has players with heirloom, or you have guildmates, or just in general you have decent players, or maybe more meta classes, then dungeons are going to be far more appealing for a group of players. Just because of the speed, the rate at which you clear them, the speed at which you get into them, they're going to be a good source of constant EXP. For example, gaining 5 levels through dungeoning can occur pretty quickly, especially if you have a group of 3 or 4 where you've got a healer and a tank. You're going to be getting queues every 20-30 seconds, And because of this, you'll start to level at a good curve. Now imagine some of them having a little bit of heirloom or something. That's going to make that curve go a lot faster. In terms of solo leveling, things change a little bit. So generally with solo leveling, you're not dependent on other people. Questing becomes a lot more optimized for you, because with questing you only have to focus on your own needs. You don't have to focus on the group, making sure you all have the same quest, etc. The issue you have is ultimately you lose speed comparative to a group. You clear quests slower, you clear content slower, and you also can't really do some of the more challenging content so easily. But this isn't the only basis of leveling. Like this isn't it's very obvious that questing in a group or playing in a group is going to be faster for you as a player. But now, what if you can't play as a group? Well, here's the thing. If you can't play as a group, then, like I mentioned before, mixing your dungeons and mixing your leveling process is going to be the best for you. If you are solo, don't feel the need to dungeon run. Unless you are a tank or a healer that's got heirloom or something, dungeon running is not the be-all and end-all. Questing is a very efficient source, especially with these questing add-ons. You can actually function with questing quite well. Not only is the EXP good, but you'll be able to get gear at a regular interval. Now, I will say questing is better for some classes than others. As a healer, you may find that questing is not such an enjoyable experience for you. This is where you may want to consider rather looking at dungeon running. Dungeon running will give you a little bit more of a burst line EXP. So you'll finish quests, you'll get a nice boost in EXP, maybe 1 or 2 levels. This might help you to unlock a few more abilities for damage. It is hard, especially if you're leveling healers or characters that can't hold their own. It is a bit difficult, especially without self-heals. You'll have to properly heal and eat food. There is time management there. That's where the quest guides do come in. But as a solo player, you have to consider those factors. But it's not the be-all and end-all. As a solo player, dungeons are really, really, really solid. But it's very dependent on your group. So as a solo player, because you don't have control over your party, whereas in a group you have a lot of control over your party, as a solo player you don't. You may get dungeon groups that are incredibly efficient. People that know what they're doing, people that have meta classes, people that have good gear or enchanted gear, or just are able to keep themselves afloat. Maybe they're part of your guild, maybe they're very strong, and by having these players, your dungeon runs will be very quick. Let's say you get a group that's not so efficient. You may not experience such a quick dungeon run. That component of it is very difficult to manage. Now, of course, it could still end up being better than questing. But generally speaking, outside of maybe healers or tanks, and fast queue times and healers who especially struggle with some quests, or some classes of healers struggle with some quests, you could, potentially rather look at either A, leveling as a DPS, which is something some healers do when they are questing, just to give themselves a bit more access to DPS-based spells, or maybe to make them a bit tankier due to certain spells, or, like I said, alternatively, you just dungeon run. Ultimately, you're going to mix and match. There's no perfect answer. Dungeon running, if you have full heirloom and consumables and trinkets and boosts, is going to be great. But dungeon running has its limitations. It's better for more veteran players who have all these buffs, who have all these pieces of gear. It's going to make their characters level fast because they accelerate beyond the curve. Whereas for standard characters and fresh characters, questing is the best way to go. Now, in terms of classes, obviously I did a video on meta classes, but in terms of the best classes for leveling, there are some interesting ones. So in terms of the best classes for leveling, hunters are great, warlocks are great. This is because they have pets. These pets can be quite tanky, and especially if you're solo questing, having a tanky pet to kind of soak in a couple enemies, let you pop off, take out enemies faster, let you ultimately complete quests faster. Mages are also not bad because of their AoE spells and capabilities. Death Knights are very good, but they do require you to have a level 55 beforehand, and Paladins are also very good with their AoE and healing. These are kind of just the best leveling classes because of their survivability and ability to continue roaming through quests and packs of mobs, more so than just being able to outright kill everything instantly, except for maybe mages. But yeah, that's it for leveling. I hope this has helped you out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care, stay safe, and bye.